Welcome back to the channel Rare Coins History, Treasure Hunters and Coin Lovers. Get ready, because today we're diving into one of the most fascinating and overlooked coins in American history, the 1954 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Yes, it's just a penny. Just 1 cent. But don't let its small size fool you, because hiding in plain sight, this humble coin could be worth a small fortune. Grab your magnifying glasses and dust off your coin jars, because this is the kind of story that makes collecting coins feel like going on a real-life treasure hunt. Let's start with a little backstory. The Lincoln Wheat Penny has been a favorite among collectors for decades. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, this design remained in circulation until 1958. That makes every wheat penny a tiny piece of American history, and each one tells a unique story. Now, the 1954 edition comes from a period when America was post-war, booming with optimism, and growing faster than ever. Minted in Philadelphia and Denver, the 1954 Lincoln Wheat Pennies were produced in large numbers. So you might be thinking, if millions were made, what makes one so special? Well, here's where it gets exciting. Most 1954 Lincoln Wheat Pennies you find today are well worn. They've passed through thousands of hands, bought countless candy bars, and been forgotten in drawers and couch cushions. But once in a while, a rare version appears, and these are the coins that make collectors' hearts race. The key factors that drive a coin's value are condition, rarity, and errors. And this little 1954 wheat penny has all three if you know what to look for. First, let's talk about condition. A coin that has never been used, a mint state, uncirculated coin with a bright, shiny surface and sharp details, is what collectors dream about. These coins are graded on a scale, and the higher the grade, the higher the value. A 1954 penny in top-notch condition can already bring in hundreds of dollars, but wait, we're just getting started. Now comes the rarest part, minting errors. These are the little accidents that happen during the production of coins, and believe it or not, collectors go crazy for them. Some 1954 pennies have been discovered with double dies, meaning the coin was struck twice, creating a shadow-like doubling effect, especially noticeable on the date or the words, "In God We Trust." Others have off-center strikes, where the image is shifted, giving it a strange and unique appearance. Then there are clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin is actually missing from the edge because of a cutting error during minting. These errors are like golden tickets for coin collectors. Why? Because they are rare, they are unique, and no two are exactly alike. Imagine owning a coin that no one else in the world has quite like yours. That's what makes error coins so desirable, and so valuable. Now let's add one more layer to the excitement: rarity in perfect storm conditions. Imagine this, a 1954 Lincoln Wheat Penny, struck with a rare minting error, preserved in nearly flawless condition for over 70 years. This isn't just a coin anymore. It's a museum-worthy piece of American history, and here's the jaw-dropping part. Some of these rare error coins from 1954 have been known to fetch up to $43,000 at auction. Yes, you heard that right. One penny. Just one. Worth $43,000. So before you toss that old coin jar or cash in that pile of pennies, take a moment to really look. You might be sitting on a treasure and not even know it. Check the date. Look for the wheat ears on the back. Inspect it for doubling, for off-center strikes, or any sign of a minting mishap. What you thought was pocket change could be life-changing. Today, we're going to explore a coin that most people have seen, maybe even held, but few have truly looked at closely. I'm talking about the United States 1-cent Lincoln Wheat Penny from the year 1951. Now at first glance, the 1951 penny seems like nothing special. It's just a penny, right? Brown, small, and easy to overlook. But sometimes, what seems ordinary is actually hiding something extraordinary. And by the end of this video, you might be running to your coin jar to see if you have one of these lying around, because a rare version of this coin has been sold for a truly unbelievable amount of money. Let's go back in time for a moment. The year was 1951. America was in the early stages of the post-World War II boom. People were buying homes, cars, and dreaming big. And in the middle of all this progress, the United States Mint continued its long tradition of producing the Lincoln Wheat Penny, a coin that had already become iconic since its debut in 1909. The 1951 Wheat Penny was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can tell where yours came from by looking for a tiny letter under the date. No letter means Philadelphia, D means Denver, and an S means San Francisco. That tiny mark? It could make a big difference in value. Millions of these coins were made that year. In fact, over 1 billion pennies were produced in 1951 across all mints combined. So why would any of them be worth more than a single cent? Here's where things get interesting. Even with massive production numbers, a handful of these coins stand out, and it's all about condition, rarity, and most exciting of all, minting errors. Let's start with condition. Most pennies have been through the ringer, banged around in pockets, used in vending machines, tossed in jars, and scraped across counters. But a small number of 1951 wheat pennies have survived the decades in pristine, uncirculated condition. That means no scratches, no dull surfaces, no wear. These coins shine as if they were just made yesterday. And collectors? They'll pay a premium for that kind of perfection, but what really gets collectors fired up are the errors, those beautiful, bizarre little mistakes that happen during the minting process. These are not flaws, they're treasures. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die. Imagine the words or numbers on the coin, like Liberty or the date, appearing twice, slightly off from each other. It creates a shadowy, almost ghost-like effect that's easy to spot when you know what to look for. These are extremely rare, and when found on a 1951 penny, they can be worth a fortune. Another rare error is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin isn't lined up properly during the strike, leaving part of the design missing or shifted to one side. Then there are clipped planchets, where a portion of the coin is literally missing from the edge due to a miscut blank. These are wild, unusual, and super collectible. There's also the chance of finding a repunched mint mark, where the little D or S under the date was stamped more than once, creating a layered effect. Mint workers didn't have today's technology, and these tiny missteps from over 70 years ago now mean big money for collectors. So now imagine this: you have a 1951 Lincoln Wheat Penny. It's in nearly flawless condition. Maybe it has a double die or a dramatic off-center strike. It's graded by a professional service, sealed in a plastic case, and verified as a genuine error coin from that year. And here's where things get truly jaw-dropping. A rare, error 1951 wheat penny in top-grade condition has sold for an incredible $45,000. That's right. One little penny, worth $45,000. All because of its condition, rarity, and a minting mistake that turned it into a one-of-a-kind treasure. So the next time you find a wheat penny, especially one with the date 1951, don't toss it aside. Hold it up to the light. Check it closely. You might just be holding something way more valuable than you think. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into the story of a small, brown coin that millions of people have seen, but only a few truly understand. It's the humble yet fascinating 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Now, you might think a 1-cent coin can't be all that exciting, but by the end of this video, you'll see how this little piece of copper could be one of the most valuable items you've ever come across. And yes, if you're lucky enough to find the right one, in the right condition, with just the right details, it could be worth a jaw-dropping amount of money. Let's roll back time to 1952. America was riding a wave of post-war optimism. Dwight D. Eisenhower had just been elected president, the economy was booming, and families were buying homes, cars, and dreaming of a brighter future. Through it all, pennies were being minted, passed from hand to hand, used to buy candy, newspapers, or dropped into jukeboxes that played the music of a brand new generation. In that year alone, hundreds of millions of Lincoln Wheat pennies were minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If you look closely at your 1952 penny, just beneath the date, you might see a tiny letter, either a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. If there's no letter, that means your coin came from Philadelphia. Now here's where it gets interesting. while many of these coins are common and worth only a cent, some versions are extremely valuable. And it all comes down to three things: condition, rarity, and errors. Let's start with condition. This is one of the biggest factors that determines a coin's value. Over the years, most 1952 wheat pennies have been worn down, scratched, faded, discolored. But a select few, stored carefully, untouched by time, have remained in mint condition, still shining with their original luster. These coins are graded by professionals using a special scale. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. A 1952 penny that looks brand new? That's already rare. But if it has something extra? That's when things get exciting. Now we come to what coin collectors really love: minting errors. These are little mistakes made at the US Mint when the coin was being struck. And believe it or not, those mistakes can turn an ordinary coin into a collector's dream. One of the most valuable errors is the double die. This happens when the coin is struck twice by the die, creating a doubled image. You might see the letters in Liberty or the date 1952 appear to have shadows or overlapping lines. It's not damage, it's a minting mistake. And it's incredibly valuable. Another rare find is the off-center strike, where the image on the coin is not centered correctly. You'll notice part of the design is cut off, leaving blank space on the edge. These coins look strange, almost like they were printed wrong, and collectors absolutely love them. And then there's the clipped planchet error. This is when the metal blank used to create the coin is accidentally cut wrong, leaving a curved or jagged edge on the penny. It might look like a bite was taken out of the coin. That weird little flaw? It could be worth a lot, but it doesn't stop there. Some 1952 pennies have been found with repunched mint marks, where the D or S under the date was struck more than once, creating a shadow or double appearance. These errors are subtle, but if you know what to look for, they can add serious value to your coin. Put all of this together: an original 1952 wheat penny, preserved in near-perfect condition, struck with one of these rare and fascinating errors, and you've got a coin that's more than just old copper. You've got a collectible, a piece of history, and a potential payday. Now here comes the part you've been waiting for. One of these rare 1952 Lincoln wheat pennies, in exceptional condition, featuring a dramatic minting error, once sold for an astonishing $44,000. Yes. You heard that right. Just one penny, worth $44,000. So the next time you're going through an old piggy bank, checking the change you got back from the store, or rummaging through your grandpa's coin collection, take a closer look at those wheat pennies. Especially the ones from 1952. Because what looks like a simple coin could actually be a hidden treasure. Today, get ready, because this tiny, brown coin from the past could be hiding in your pocket, your piggy bank, or your grandparents' old drawer, and it might just be worth way more than 1 cent. Today's star is the 1953 Lincoln wheat penny, and while it may look like an ordinary coin at first glance, you're about to find out why collectors are going crazy over it, and why the right version of this coin has sold for a price that will leave you speechless. Let's rewind the clock to the year 1953. It was a time of transition. America was feeling hopeful again. The Korean War had just ended, television was booming, Elvis Presley was on the radio, and across the country, people were dropping pennies into jukeboxes and parking meters without thinking twice. One of those pennies might have been a 1953 wheat penny. Now here's what makes this coin special. The Lincoln wheat penny had been around since 1909, but by the early 1950s, the design was nearing the end of its run. In just 5 years, the wheat design on the back would be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial. That makes the coins from this era some of the last to feature those iconic wheat ears, which, for collectors, adds a nostalgic charm and historical value. In 1953, the U.S. Mint struck these pennies in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If your coin has a D or an S under the date, it came from one of those 2 branch mints. If there's no letter at all, it was made in Philadelphia. Millions were made. So how can a coin that was once so common now be so valuable? That's where the magic of rarity, condition, and errors comes in. Let's start with condition. Most pennies from the 1950s are scratched, dull, or discolored from years of circulation. But a small number were never used. They were tucked away, forgotten, or stored by collectors. These rare survivors are called uncirculated coins, and they look almost brand new, even decades later. If you've got one that still shines like the day it was minted, you're already in a good position. Now let's talk about what really gets coin collectors fired up: minting errors. These aren't mistakes like damage from being dropped or worn. These are actual flaws that happened at the mint itself, during the production of the coin. And because they're so rare, they're incredibly valuable. One of the most famous errors is the double die. This occurs when the coin is struck twice by the die slightly off position, creating a ghost-like doubling effect on the lettering or numbers. A 1953 penny with this kind of doubling, especially on the date or the word "Liberty," can skyrocket in value. Then there's the off-center strike, where the coin is not aligned correctly during the minting process. Part of the design is missing, and the rest is pushed to one side. It looks weird. It looks broken. But to a collector? That's the dream. There are also repunched mint marks, where the D or S was accidentally punched more than once, often leaving behind a shadow of the original. This small detail can turn a regular wheat penny into something truly special. Let's not forget clipped planchets, where a piece of the coin's edge is actually missing due to an error in the cutting process. These coins look like they're missing a bite, but in the world of collecting, that bite could be worth thousands. Now, here's the exciting part. Combine a minting error with an uncirculated coin, something shiny, flawless, and with a visible mistake straight from the mint, and you're no longer talking about pocket change. You're talking about a collector's jackpot. And believe it or not, one of these 1953 Lincoln wheat pennies, in nearly perfect condition with a stunning error, has been sold at auction for a life-changing $40,000. Yes, that's right. 1 cent, that turned into $40,000. So before you toss that old change jar, or ignore that dusty penny from decades ago, stop and look closer. Check the date. Look at the details. You might just be holding a rare piece of American history in the palm of your hand. Today, we're taking a closer look at a little copper classic, one that may look like every other penny out there, but under the right conditions, it can be worth more than a brand new car. Yes, we're talking about the 1950 Lincoln wheat penny. It's small, it's common looking, and chances are, you or someone you know might already have one sitting in a drawer, a change jar, or tucked away in an old coin album. But what most people don't realize is that some of these pennies are not just old, they're rare, valuable, and in some cases, extremely collectible. So, what makes the 1950 penny so special? Let's rewind to the year 1950. Post-World War II America was in full swing. The economy was on the rise, televisions were entering homes, and families across the country were dreaming of that white picket fence life. Meanwhile, at the U.S. Mint, millions of 1-cent coins were being produced for everyday use. They were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If you look just below the date on a penny, you might spot a tiny D or S mint mark, which stands for Denver or San Francisco. No letter? That means your coin came from Philadelphia. Now, even though over 272 million Lincoln wheat pennies were minted in 1950 across all three mints, not all of them are equal. In fact, a few have become superstars in the coin collecting world. And the reasons are threefold: condition, rarity, and most exciting of all, minting errors. Let's start with condition. Most pennies from 1950 have been through it all, passed through vending machines, rattled around in pockets, dropped on sidewalks, and left in old jars. But every so often, a few escape the wear and tear. These are coins that were never circulated, carefully preserved by collectors or accidentally forgotten somewhere safe. These uncirculated coins are bright, shiny, and have all their original details perfectly intact. They're graded on a scale, and if a 1950 penny hits a high grade like MS 65 or higher, its value can shoot way up, but condition alone isn't what turns an old penny into a small fortune. That's where minting errors come in, and this is where things get really interesting. You see, mistakes at the mint are rare, but when they happen, they create coins that are one of a kind. And collectors? They go wild for them. One of the most sought-after errors is the double die, where the coin was struck twice by the die, causing a shadow or doubling effect, especially on the date or lettering like Liberty and In God We Trust. If you spot one of these, you're already in elite territory. Another exciting error is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin isn't properly aligned, causing the design to be printed off to one side, sometimes drastically. It gives the coin a strange, almost distorted look. To a casual eye, it may look damaged. But to a collector? It's a beautiful mistake. Then there's the clipped planchet error, where a piece of the coin is literally missing from the edge. These coins look like they were bitten or chipped before they even left the mint, and don't forget the repunched mint mark. Back in 1950, mint marks were often punched into the die by hand. Sometimes, they didn't get it quite right the first time and had to punch it again, creating a faint shadow or doubling effect on the mint mark. Subtle? Yes. But worth serious money if spotted. Now, imagine combining one of these rare minting errors with a flawless, uncirculated 1950 Lincoln wheat penny. That's when you go from collector's item to collector's dream. Because these rare combinations don't just catch eyes, they break records at auctions. And here's the part that'll really blow your mind. One of these 1950 wheat pennies, with a perfect mix of condition and mint error, was sold for a staggering $42,500. That's right. 1 cent. One tiny piece of copper. Worth $42,500. So next time you're going through that old coffee can of change, or helping a grandparent clean out their attic, keep your eyes peeled. That one little penny might just be hiding among the ordinary ones, waiting to be discovered. Today we're diving deep into one of the most iconic pennies ever made in American history, the 1958 Lincoln wheat penny. At first glance, it might seem like any other old penny. It's copper-colored, it's got Abraham Lincoln on the front, and it's something you've probably seen a dozen times. But let me tell you, this penny holds a special place in the hearts of collectors, and under the right conditions, it could be worth more than most people expect. Now, before we reveal its surprising value, let's talk about why the 1958 penny stands out. First, it marks the final year of the beloved wheat penny design. That's right, the Lincoln wheat cent, which had been in circulation since 1909, came to an end in 1958. Just 1 year later, in 1959, the reverse design was changed to the Lincoln Memorial. That makes the 1958 wheat penny not only collectible, but historic. It's the closing chapter of a 50-year era, and collectors love coins that mark a transition. In 1958, the U.S. Mint struck these pennies in Philadelphia and Denver. You can tell where your penny came from by looking just below the date. If there's a small D under the year, it was made in Denver. If there's no mint mark at all, it came from Philadelphia. Now here's the kicker: 1958 Lincoln wheat pennies were produced in large numbers. Over 250 million were minted that year. So how can any of them be rare, let alone valuable? Well, that's where things get interesting. Even though there were millions made, not all 1958 pennies are created equal. Some are highly valuable because of their condition, and others are worth even more because of rare minting errors that only a sharp eye can spot. Let's start with condition. Most pennies you find from 1958 are going to be worn, scratched, and dull from years of circulation. But a select few, ones that were carefully stored, never spent, and kept in mint condition, are called uncirculated coins. These coins still shine with their original copper glow and show off every detail of Lincoln's portrait and the wheat stalks on the reverse. Collectors pay top dollar for coins in high grades, especially those certified by professional grading services as MS 65 or higher. A 1958 wheat penny in that kind of condition already commands attention, but here's where things go from exciting to extraordinary. In rare cases, a small number of 1958 pennies were struck with minting errors, and that's what turns a regular coin into a true collector's treasure. One of the most famous and valuable errors is the double die obverse, where the coin was struck twice on the front side by accident. This creates a dramatic doubling effect on the words, Liberty, In God We Trust, and even the date, 1958. These coins are incredibly rare and instantly recognizable if you know what to look for. And yes, they've broken records at auctions. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is shifted to one side, leaving part of the coin blank. Then you've got repunched mint marks, where the little d was stamped twice in slightly different positions, creating a shadow effect. And don't forget clipped planchets, where a chunk of the coin is actually missing because of a mistake during the cutting process. All of these errors are like golden tickets for collectors. Now, here's the most mind-blowing part of this story. Point 1 Rare version of the 1958 Lincoln wheat penny, featuring a dramatic double die and preserved in exceptional condition, was sold for a stunning $38,500. Yes. One single penny. Just one. Worth $38,500. So before you toss out that old penny or ignore the change jingling at the bottom of your drawer, take a moment. Look closely. You might just be holding a piece of American history worth more than your last paycheck. Today, we're diving into a penny that's not just old, it's over a century old. It's a piece of American history that has survived world wars, depressions, and decades of change. I'm talking about the legendary 1917 Lincoln wheat penny, a tiny coin with a very big story. You've probably seen a lot of old pennies in your life, but this one stands out. Not just because of its age, but because of what it represents, the rare features it carries, and the stunning prices it can bring in the collector's market. Stick around, because if you have a 1917 penny, or you're lucky enough to come across one, you might just be holding something truly special. Let's take a quick trip back in time to the year 1917. The United States had just entered World War I, Woodrow Wilson was president, and the country was shifting into a new era of global involvement. People were riding in early automobiles, listening to jazz for the first time, and paying for goods with coins that were brand new at the time, including the 1917 Lincoln wheat cent. Now, the Lincoln wheat penny had only been around for less than a decade at that point. It was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It became an instant classic, not only the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure, but also a symbol of national pride. The 1917 Lincoln cent was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You can tell where your coin came from by checking under the date. A small d means it was minted in Denver, an S for San Francisco, and if there's no mint mark at all, it came from Philadelphia. Now here's the big question: what makes this coin so special? And how can a coin that was once worth just 1 cent be worth thousands today? Well, let's talk about rarity, condition, and minting errors, the 3 things that turn ordinary coins into collector's gold. First, rarity. While millions of 1917 pennies were minted, the vast majority of them were used in everyday life. They were passed around, worn down, scratched, dented, and eventually forgotten. But a small number managed to survive in remarkable condition. These uncirculated or high-grade coins still show every detail: the sharp beard on Lincoln's face, the bold "In God We Trust," and those iconic wheat stalks on the back. These well-preserved examples are incredibly desirable and can fetch serious money at auctions. Next, we have minting errors, and here's where things get exciting. Point 1 Of the most famous and valuable errors for the 1917 wheat penny is the double die obverse. That's right, some of these coins were struck twice by the die, just slightly off from each other, creating a bold doubling effect. If you look closely at the date, 1917, or at the words, Liberty, and, In God We Trust, you might see the letters and numbers appear to have a shadow or a duplicate image. That's not damage, it's a minting mistake, and collectors absolutely love it. Other rare errors to look out for include off-center strikes, where the coin design is not aligned properly, leaving part of the surface blank. There are also clipped planchets, where a chunk of the coin's edge is literally missing due to a mistake in the cutting process. These kinds of errors are rare, eye-catching, and highly collectible, and let's not forget the repunched mint marks, especially for coins from Denver or San Francisco. Back then, mint marks were punched into the dies by hand. Sometimes, the mint worker would accidentally hit the die slightly off-center and then punch it again, leaving behind a blurry or doubled mint mark. It's a small detail, but one that can dramatically increase a coin's value. Now, imagine this: a 1917 wheat penny that has been beautifully preserved, kept in high-grade condition, and features a dramatic minting error like a double die obverse or a repunched mint mark. That's the kind of coin that makes serious waves in the collector community, and yes, one of those rare examples, graded by professionals and sold at auction, fetched a breathtaking $63,500, let that sink in. One tiny copper penny, from over 100 years ago, worth $63,500. So if you ever come across a 1917 Lincoln wheat penny, don't toss it aside. Examine it closely. Look for the mint mark, inspect the lettering, and if it still shines with original luster, you just might have a valuable piece of history in your hands. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare coins, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next coin story. Until then, keep your eyes on your change and your hands on your treasure, because that next rare find could be sitting right in your pocket. Happy collecting!